Another day, another story about minimum wage causing problems for low-wage workers. This is a complicated issue, and I want to expand on some of my thoughts having to do with the minimum wage, maybe some other progressive economic-based issues. We're going to start with this story from The Guardian. Whole Foods cuts workers' hours after Amazon introduces minimum wage. An email shared with The Guardian by a Whole Foods employee cites the shift cuts as a direct result of guidance from our regional team. In response to public pressure and increasing scrutiny over pay of its warehouse workers, Amazon enacted a $15 minimum wage for all its employees on 1 November, including workers at grocery chain Whole Foods, which it purchased in 2017. All Whole Foods employees paid less than $15 an hour saw their wages increase to at least that, while all other team members received a $1 an hour wage increase and team leaders received a $2 an hour increase. But since the wage increase, Whole Foods employees have told The Guardian that they have experienced widespread cuts that have reduced schedule shifts across many stores, often negating wage gains for employees. My hours went from 30 to 20 a week, said one Whole Foods employee in Illinois. Workers interviewed for the story were reluctant to speak on the record for fear of retaliation. The Illinois-based worker explained that once the $15 minimum wage was enacted, part-time employee hours at their store were cut from an average of 30 to 21 hours a week, and full-time employees saw average hours reduced from 37.5 to 34.5. The worker provided schedules from 1 November to the end of January 2019, showing hours for workers in their department significantly decreased as the department's percentage of the entire store labor budget stayed relatively the same. We just have to work faster to meet the same goals in less time, the worker said. An internal email shared by the employee from the department manager cited the across-the-board shift cuts as the direct result of guidance from our regional team. So let's talk about what's happening here. Whole Foods has to pay more now. And I don't know necessarily what people are being paid beforehand, but let's just say everyone was getting maybe between $10 and $12 an hour. Whole Foods sells products at competitive market rates. With other chains and other stores, they're competing, right? And there are cheaper options. People go to Whole Foods typically because they have higher quality choices, and it's, people think it's the organic place. Not all of it's organic, but so here's the problem. For PR reasons, for legal reasons in some jurisdictions, they increase the minimum wage for everybody up to 15, and everybody else gets a dollar raise. Now their budget for staffing is being stretched. It's reaching its upper limit. So what do? Cut the hours. We can save money. Tell everybody they got to work harder, and if they don't, we'll find somebody who will. It didn't actually solve any of the problems. Now, I do not oppose the general concept of a minimum wage or increasing the minimum wage. The issue is that when it comes to things like a progressive tax, when it comes to things like a minimum wage, the left tends to shoot first and ask questions later. Sometimes this is the right thing to do. I don't want to, I think there are a lot of people on the right who are just outright like, no, don't do it. Just, let people pay whatever they want. I don't think that's accurate. I think I'm a mixed economy person. I think there's a balance. So let's point out a few things. There was another story I did recently where fast food workers all got fired. The technological ramifications of a wage increase. This is something they don't pay attention to, and I explained it. I try to break it down very simply. If a kiosk costs $20,000, but a yearly full-time hourly employee is going to cost you $13,000, the company might say, look, I'd rather not spend the $7,000 this year and just pay another $13,000 next year because I'm only paying a little bit more, but I'm saving half of that this year. Like, in budget-wise, it's better for our numbers. We might as well just keep the staff on board. Then they increase wages. Now the cost of the employee is getting comparable to the cost of a kiosk, and they say, whatever, do the renovations, install the kiosk. We're going to spend the money anyway, right? If the left doesn't pay attention to what's going on with technology, your plan won't work. So you can't just snap your fingers and say, this is what we need. Well, hold on. Sometimes minimum wages work, okay? There are going to be people who benefit from a minimum wage increase, 100%. These are the people, when there's no technological solution, who are being underpaid for whatever reason. It can be beneficial to the economy, to working class individuals, etc. Now, let's talk about a progressive tax real quick. The left says we want to tax 70% of income over $10 million. Okay, I am not entirely opposed to that. I do think a progressive tax makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. However, if you do that today without putting a check checking as to what technological limits there are, then you're going to hurt yourself. Why? Well, we saw Andrew Cuomo in New York say, heaven forbid, God forbid if the rich leave. It is in the United States, you can freely move your money into and out of any jurisdiction within the United States, for the most part. So I lived in New York, taxes were too high, I moved to the Jersey side. Jersey was cheaper too, so now I'm still in Jersey, taxes are still high. But I know if I really wanted to, I could move to Florida or Delaware, one of these states, and not have to pay that much. Florida has taxes are way lower. It's easy to move. This has to do with legal restrictions as well as technological restrictions. If you, in the United States, say, let's tax everybody's income over $10 million, 70%, what are they going to do? They're going to call up Ireland and say, set up my company in Dublin, transfer all my money to Ireland, and I will buy citizenship. Now, I don't know if you can buy citizenship in Ireland, but there are jurisdictions where you can buy citizenship. There's economic investment citizenship, and there's actually you can actually pay. There are some places where you give them like 50 grand and they'll, congratulations, you're a citizen, thanks for the investment. And then they provide you with tax benefits and things like that. By renouncing U.S. citizenship, you don't got to pay U.S. taxes, but you're still allowed to operate a business here. So this is why, yes, these ideas can work, not with the way, it can still work if you put restrictions on the flow of income into and out of the country, tariffs, things like that. So I want to make another really important point when it comes to minimum wage. Let's say you're working at Whole Foods and you make $10 an hour because you take the trash out. Then you have someone who's a skilled baker and they're getting paid $15 an hour because it's a lot of experience to bake and decorate cakes. Not as, I don't think I'm not trying to deride bakers or custodial services. But then they say we're going to do a minimum wage increase. What does that mean? It means you as the baker who has a skilled job, all of a sudden you're economically equal to someone who has an unskilled job or a low skilled job. This is going to create a dangerous imbalance. So here's the problem. Inflation exists and people want to be paid competitively. And if people are worth more, they will demand to be paid more. Minimum wage is typically for the lowest skilled kind of work. Punching in things at fast food restaurants, taking out the trash. Again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody, but it's something that basically anyone can do. Now, if you're a manager or if you're an assistant manager, you're doing more difficult tasks. If they, I'll use an example of what happened in Seattle with this one company where they decided to pay everyone $77,000. If we did that on a grand scale, and look, I'm not an economist, so this is going to be mostly about my opinion. All of a sudden, you have, let me back up. Let me try something else. It doesn't matter what the minimum wage is. It matters economic activity and market competition. So the cost of an apple is, you break down the cost of the labor to produce it, the water, all the machinery, everything that comes with it, and then you divide it amongst all the apples they've produced. And so there's an equation you can find where you're like, all of the money went into producing 100 apples. We break that up. The apples need to be sold for $1.50 if we're going to make extra money on top, which we use to feed ourselves and invest in the company and grow. So let's say the apple costs $1 to make. The 50 cents is your profit. Profit is what you take so that you can feed yourself, buy healthcare as a business owner. People on the left seem to think that profit is like you just throwing money in there and laughing. Ha ha ha. No. The profit is you getting paid as a business owner, paying out shareholders, and money to invest and grow your business, which you need. So let's say it's $1.50. You're getting paid $1.50 an hour. That means you, as a skilled laborer, can now buy one apple every hour. They raise the minimum wage to $1.50. All of a sudden now, everyone making those apples has to get paid $1.50. So what happens? The cost of producing the apple goes up. Now it's $2 per apple, and they want to sell it for $3 to get a profit on top compared to based on where they were. Now you, as the skilled laborer who's buying the apple, say, whoa, all of a sudden, it takes me the same amount of time as the low-skilled worker to buy an apple. I deserve 2 apples per hour. I was able to buy an apple per hour. Now I can't. I want a raise. I'm skilled labor. And thus you see inflation. Because skilled labor will demand to be competitive, and it's not about money, it's about access to resources. Let's say you're a high-level executive at a company, let's say you're a mid-level manager, and you make just enough. You make $77,000 a year, and that means you have your 2 weeks vacation. All of a sudden now, everyone at the airport is being paid the same as you, and now it's going to take you as the same amount of time as a minimum wage individual to earn that vacation, and you say, I deserve more, I'm better and I'm smarter, thus inflation hits. Minimum wages don't always make sense. Sometimes they do. I am a middle of the road kind of person, moderate, center, left. I think we need minimum wages in some circumstances. I don't think it's as simple to say we don't need them in some circumstances. And I know there's a lot of conservatives who want to throw names at me and say, read this person. And I'll just point out by saying I have read a lot. And ultimately, what it comes down to is not necessarily the function of the economy. And that's why I'm a middle-of-the-road person thinking sometimes it's bad and sometimes it's good. The point I'm trying to make is that a lot of people are one or nothing, right? You've got people on the left saying we must increase wages. Well, hold on. Do the math first. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You need to know what sector you're affecting, how this will affect inflation, how it's going to affect the cost of base goods. And there are a lot of jobs that can be replaced by technology, and you will hurt the workers, they will lose hours, or be forced to work harder to remain competitive. You are not solving the problem by just saying $15 an hour. And admittedly, there are some circumstances when technology doesn't permit, where we do see a massive increase in inequality, and then you run the risk of destabilizing an economy because, yes, people are jealous. And it's unfortunate. And you might think, I don't care if they're jealous or not. They don't deserve what I have. That's fine. But when 10,000 people show up to your doorstep with pitchforks and Molotov cocktails and demand what you have, you're in trouble. We have police for this, but at a certain point, it can destabilize a society. We need to make sure that capitalism is working to decrease poverty. And in our society, it is. And it's been one of the greatest systems to decrease poverty worldwide. So it's good. But keep in mind, most of our systems do have some kind of checks on them. They are not laissez-faire. Right? So I believe in a mixed economy, slightly center-left, and we'll leave it at that. Suffice it to say, this article is a good example of your plan to increase the minimum wage didn't actually help these people. It made their job harder, and now they've lost hours. So they're probably working harder, and they're probably getting paid the same amount. Does this mean minimum wages are always bad? Absolutely not. It means they didn't plan ahead. They didn't think about what they were asking for, and I'm not surprised because it is common among most people to advocate for something when they don't actually look at the data. Do I know the solutions? No. That's why I'm a middle-of-the-road person who thinks sometimes yes, sometimes no. Plain and simple. We'll leave it there. Stick around. I've got another video coming up at 4 p.m., and I will see you then.